Thanks a bunch, everybody, for showing up. This is the second AEDC-sponsored hackathon. The first one was the Anchorage hackathon. This one is our first Alaska hackathon. It's actually sort of retitled, and this time we actually have participation from a number of folks, both developers and sponsors from out in the Mat-Su. So this is actually a real, Alaska hackathon. We're actually hoping to spread from here. We're hoping to get. We've actually talked to people in both Juneau and Fairbanks, so we're hoping maybe next time around we can be even more of the state. Before we get started, I don't want to take up too much time here. I want to get through the presentations as quick as we can. My name is Jeff Wright. I'm one of the people on AEDC's ad hoc hackathon committee. And first, a little bit about the purpose of this whole thing. There's we kind of identified three reasons that we're getting together. The first is to get out there and use our powers for good, and ultimately, hopefully, make Alaska a little bit better place for the effort. The other one is to have some fun and foster developer community. One of the things we run into, like I own Pango Media, and we are chronically trying to recruit from developers, and because the pool is limited up here, we end up talking to a lot of people from outside and say, hey, you should come up and you should live in Alaska. And the perception, of course, and I'm sure you guys are all Alaskan enough to know this, is especially as a developer, because we're talking to people who are not always, but often from kind of major urban areas. Like, yeah, why the hell would I want to do that? There's got for somebody who's living that kind of life, like this is going to be uninteresting professionally, and even if I find a job up there, there's going to be nothing to do when I get off of work to let me exercise my skills. And so this is to hopefully we can we had one successful hackathon. Hopefully we can have two and have more and varied events like this that get developers together for all sorts of reasons. The final reason is to do a little bit of bridge building between the developer community in Anchorage and the nonprofit community in Anchorage, because here, as in many other places, there's a lot of times a little too much space between those groups. Developers don't understand what the nonprofit community are doing, and in turn, nonprofits don't always get how to engage developers as volunteers. But the interesting thing is when you look at developers as a whole, and I am one, not very good anymore and a little bit put out to pasture, but nonetheless I was for a lot of years. I find that developers are actually, they've kind of got all the stuff that you would want out of a volunteer. They're inherently a really giving and sharing group of people. I mean, you look at all the open source projects that float around the world. I mean, I've contributed code and collaborated with people, all across the planet just to help better software. So you've got people who've got sort of the attitude and the inclination to help out. And it's a matter of learning how to reach out to them, and again, how those folks can Becky's here. How we can have those groups better collaborate. So those are kind of the three reasons why we're here. Next thing to talk about briefly is event format. Today we're going to hear from a number of both nonprofits and government agencies. And one of the things we learned from the last hackathon is we didn't give a lot of sort of formal format to the presentations, and some of them were rather long. And we're going to try a different thing this time. We are giving each of our groups 4 minutes to tell you who they are, and in really short form, and what they're looking for help with. And once we do all that, you've heard from everybody. Afterwards, we're going to have some, formal raise your hand Q&A, and then after that, as much time as people want or need to chat amongst themselves, so you guys can look at projects, can talk to them about potential projects. There are no specific rules about how you have to engage folks, as developers, how you have to engage these people. You don't necessarily, they might come and say, I've got this idea for a project, and you can come back to them and say, well, that sounds kind of good, but what about, you can riff on that and say, what about this, or what about this? You can ask them questions about what kind of data they have, what kind of technologies you can work with. It's really pretty wide open. So you can take it and run with it. Similarly, in terms of, we'll logically break off into groups. Another thing we heard after the last hackathon was people, especially when we're sort of out there doing, kind of community or civic hacking, people were less into the idea of kind of of judging of the groups than we had originally imagined. So this time it's unjudged. We're actually planning to have presentations at the end of the whole thing, so you get the chance to sort of show everybody else what you did, and we will try to post those up and get you guys fanfare and recognition for the work that you do. So the way we're going to be structured is tonight we're going to hear the presentations, like I said. We're going to do some formal Q&A, and then again as much informal mixing as we want, and then we're all going to break. And then the actual sitting down and coding, the actual hackathon is going to be here again next weekend, starting
April 20th. Well, you can be here as early as 8 a.m., but I think 10 a.m. is going to be the solid start time.
I will probably be here looking really miserable at 8 a.m. helping set up. 10 a.m. Sounds like a good start time. And then we'll basically have 2 days. Now, that does not preclude you. So we start formally next weekend. But if you get a group of people together, you don't have to wait until the weekend to start knocking around ideas. In fact, one of the things that we are sincerely hoping for is that you guys will hear this, and you'll come to the nonprofits and the people who are presenting and say, oh, okay, we have this idea. And probably this idea is going to, or in greater likelihood, it's going to include needing access to some of the data they have. And you can actually sort of work on some of that access and prep stuff prior to the weekend, which will allow us to hit the weekend running and getting stuff done immediately. Last time we had presentations on a Friday and started working on a Saturday, and we spent a lot of time flailing, kind of, getting access and trying to figure out that logistics piece. Before I go on any further, questions about sort of purpose, form, or format from anybody? Oh, come on, like a token question. Maybe I'm.
Will it be
easy? Will it be easy? It'll be very hard.
Why are you doing it this way?
I was wondering how you envision the projects pairing up with developers.
Oh no, sorry. Go ahead. Finish.
No, that's pretty much.
We don't have a really specific form. What we're hoping, I suspect we don't have our complete group of people who are planning to show up for the weekend. But what I'm hoping is that with some of the people that we have here, that you can talk. And honestly, people can form up kind of as they want to. So you might, for a given project presenter, you might get one developer who's working with you. But a lot of times, one developer can get a hell of a lot done, in a weekend time frame. Or you might get 10 people on a team, or you might get two groups of people who both look at what you asked for, but are looking at it in a slightly different way and might try 2 takes. So we're really leaving that pretty free and open. No real specific format. I think last time, we had groups. We had some. I think we had a couple. We had at least a few where it was just like one person working. We had groups where it was 4 or 5. I think were our biggish ones, but we were just going to let that kind of flow naturally and see what developed. The other thing too to remember is and this is specifically for the nonprofits that are presenting. You guys are here in a way to kind of pitch, and you're going to try to get developers interested in what you do and motivated, and that's going to mean that you're going to try to get them to buy into your mission. And also because developers as a group are typically motivated by fun and interesting things, by your mission, and then by hopefully sort of an intriguing project. That might mean that some of you don't get any this time around, but I hope everybody finds a person or two at least. But if you don't be terribly discouraged. This whole thing is a learning opportunity, and we will be having more of these too. So. And last thing before I get to the presentation, I have a round of thank yous. First sponsor thank yous. There's a lot of them. It's actually cool. Resource Data, Penga Media, Design TP, Connect Alaska, GCI, the Chariot Group, of course the wonderful people at AEDC. Alaska Communications, Captain Cook. My lord, there's actually more of them than I knew about. Oh, Anchorage House of Hobbies, who's got one of the prizes, is a quadcopter from there, so super cool. State Chamber of Commerce, Matsuboro, Odom Corporation, Arby's, who's going to be bringing food for the weekend, Anchorage Community Land Trust, and Real Good Food, who will be also there, available to keep people fed for the weekend. And I apologize.
So, Group Technology.
Who's
Oh, yeah, that's me.
Oh! He's a super awesome sponsor. He was the author, that's Shane, who was the author of the
Just
website.
threw my logo in there.
And actually, so that's a great segue. Also, we had a number of people who were on AEDC's ad hoc committee, hackathon committee, who worked fairly hard to put all this together. Becky Boone back there with Resource Data, and she's civic hacker extraordinaire. And Will Kaiser with AEDC, both Jason and Natalia with Panga Media, and we had a couple other AEDC folks who helped a lot but aren't here tonight. They will be for the actual hackathon. John Bittner, who was the kind of brainchild behind the first, and James Starzak, and Shane, who did a tremendous amount of work putting together the website for the event and got buffeted with requests pretty much nonstop for the whole thing. Am I missing anybody?
Ryan designed the logo.
Oh, geez, Ryan. Yeah. Yes, these super cool. Yeah, and helped us with PR, and hopefully will help us with design ideas. Maybe wander around and help some of the projects too. Yeah, with that, we don't have an order assigned.